The pyramids of Egypt are ancient mysteries built into the landscape. For thousands of years, these colossal stone structures have guarded secrets that continue to defy explanation. We are going to explore 25 of the most perplexing unsolved questions surrounding these ancient wonders. By the end, you will have a completely new perspective on one of history's most famous enigmas. We will investigate how they were built with impossible precision and ask what might be hidden in chambers we still cannot access. What single mystery about the pyramids has always captured your imagination? The Great Pyramid of Giza is aligned to true north with an accuracy that defies simple explanation. Its sides are oriented to the cardinal directions with an error of just 3/60ths of a single degree. This is not a rough approximation. It is a feat of engineering that would be challenging to replicate even with our modern satellite technology and laser-guided instruments. So how did an ancient civilization without the wheel or iron tools achieve such a breathtaking level of precision? The prevailing theory involves a deep understanding of the stars. Builders might have used the simultaneous transit of two stars circling the north celestial pole to bisect an angle and find true north. Others suggest they used a simple yet effective tool called a merkit, a forked stick with a plumb line, to track the movements of specific stars across the sky. This celestial connection is a recurring theme, hinting at a sophistication we are only beginning to appreciate, but finding north was just the first step. Maintaining that perfect alignment while stacking over 2 million stone blocks, each heavier than an elephant, is another mystery entirely. The stones themselves were quarried from nearby sites, but transporting them to the plateau was a Herculean task. The leading idea involves massive earthen ramps, but the design of these ramps is hotly debated. Were they straight ramps shooting directly from the quarry? Or did they wrap around the growing pyramid in a spiraling fashion? Some even propose that the builders used a system of internal ramps hidden within the structure itself. Then there is the question of movement. Wall paintings show workers pouring water in front of sleds carrying colossal statues, reducing friction and turning sand into a slick surface. Could this simple, brilliant technique have been the secret to moving blocks that weighed 2.5 tons each? Or was there a lost method, a piece of technological knowledge that simply faded from history? The sheer logistics of feeding, housing, and organizing a workforce large enough to complete this project in a single pharaoh's lifetime is a puzzle that continues to captivate engineers and historians. This first question is the bedrock of the entire mystery, and the answer remains frustratingly, wonderfully out of reach. This precise alignment and backbreaking labor lead us to a more fundamental mystery. What was the true purpose of the pyramids? We were all taught they were tombs, grand burial chambers for the pharaohs to journey into the afterlife, and indeed, some mummies and sarcophagi have been found within pyramid structures. Yet, many of these colossal buildings were discovered completely and utterly empty. The Great Pyramid itself yielded no pharaoh's body, no treasure, no elaborate inscriptions. This profound emptiness has fueled centuries of doubt and alternative theories. Some researchers point to the very materials used in construction. The limestone and granite blocks are known to have piezoelectric properties. This means they can generate a small electrical charge under mechanical stress, like the immense pressure of the stacked stones. Could these structures have been designed as massive energy generators, harnessing the Earth's natural vibrations? Others see a celestial purpose etched into their very placement. The 3 pyramids of Giza are arranged in a pattern that mirrors the 3 stars of Orion's belt. This is not a perfect match, but the correlation is striking. Were they giant astronomical observatories, their narrow shafts acting as sightlines to specific stars, locking the pharaoh's destiny to the heavens? This brings us to the most compelling idea, a dual purpose. Perhaps the pyramid was both a tomb for the pharaoh's physical body and a sophisticated machine designed to launch his soul toward the stars. This would explain the stark difference between the silent, text-free chambers of the Great Pyramid and the later, vividly illustrated tombs in the Valley of the Kings. The builders of Giza may have believed the architecture itself was the magic, a technology of resurrection so potent it needed no written spells. The absence of a definitive answer is what makes this one of archaeology's most enduring and passionate debates. This question of purpose is deeply tied to the people who raised these stones, who really built the pyramids. For generations, the popular image was one of endless slave labor. Yet, the archaeological evidence tells a very different story. Excavations around the Giza Plateau have uncovered the remains of a sprawling workers' town, complete with bakeries capable of producing thousands of loaves of bread, vast fish processing areas, and even facilities for treating injuries. These were not slaves, but a highly organized, well-provided-for workforce. They were skilled laborers, artisans, and engineers who were housed, fed, and even received medical care. But where did this immense group of people come from? The leading theory suggests they were not toiling year-round. Instead, they were likely farmers from villages across Egypt who came to work during the annual inundation of the Nile, when their fields were underwater and agricultural labor was impossible. This was a national project, a form of civic duty that provided food and payment in return for service. This organized rotation would explain how a society could muster such a huge labor force without collapsing its agricultural base. Yet the true masterminds remain elusive. Was there a core group of master architects, a secretive school of engineers whose advanced techniques for quarrying, leveling, and aligning were so revolutionary they were later lost to time? Some point to the sheer perfection of the work and suggest the involvement of a now vanished, more advanced civilization whose knowledge was borrowed. Others, more controversially, look to the stars and propose extraterrestrial guidance, but the most compelling evidence lies close to the monuments themselves. The discovery of workers' tombs built right beside the sacred pyramids and marked with inscriptions calling the builders friends of the pharaoh is powerful. These were not the graves of slaves but of honored, respected individuals. So while we know they were skilled Egyptians, the complete story of their identities, their daily lives, and the brilliant minds that led them remains one of history's most captivating silent chapters. Moving from the workforce to the very stones they handled, the sheer scale of the material itself presents a staggering puzzle. How were these multi-ton blocks quarried and transported across vast distances? The Great Pyramid alone required over 2 million stone blocks. The outer casing was made from fine white limestone, quarried from Tura on the other side of the Nile. The inner chambers, however, are built from granite, a far harder stone, sourced from quarries in Aswan over 500 miles to the south. The journey of a single granite block from Aswan to Giza is a monumental story in itself. How do you move a 70-ton granite beam, heavier than a modern fire truck, without wheels or iron tools? The most logical theory involves the Nile River. During the annual flood, the river's water levels would rise dramatically, potentially allowing massive barges to be loaded near the quarries and floated much closer to the Giza Plateau. But even this solution is fraught with difficulty. The engineering required to build a barge capable of carrying such a load without sinking is immense. Once near the site, the challenge was far from over. The stones then had to be moved overland. A wall painting from the tomb of a nobleman named Jehutihotep provides a tantalizing clue. It shows a colossal statue being pulled on a wooden sled by a team of workers. Crucially, a man is standing at the front of the sled, pouring water onto the sand in its path. This was not a ceremonial act. Modern experiments have confirmed that the right amount of water transforms sand from a gritty obstacle into a hard, slick surface, drastically reducing the friction and making it possible to pull immense weights with a manageable workforce. But the very first step, quarrying the stone with such clean, precise lines, is another mystery. The official explanation is that workers used simple copper chisels and saws. Copper is a soft metal, however. How could it possibly cut through granite, one of the hardest stones on Earth? The answer might lie in an even simpler material, sand. By using a copper saw with quartz sand as an abrasive, workers could effectively grind through the granite over time. It would have been an incredibly slow and laborious process, but it would work. Another theory suggests they used thermal shock, heating the stone with fire and then rapidly cooling it with water to cause it to fracture along desired lines. Even if we accept these methods, the precision of the cuts is baffling. Some granite blocks inside the pyramid fit together so perfectly that you cannot slide a piece of paper between them. This level of stonemasonry implies a degree of skill and a set of tools that we have not yet fully identified. Every step from the quarry to the final placement was a masterpiece of logistics and applied physics, pushing the boundaries of what we believe was possible with the technology of the time. That breathtaking precision in stone placement points toward a deeper cosmic understanding. The Great Pyramid's near-perfect alignment to the cardinal directions is not just an architectural feat, it is a statement written in stone. Its sides face true north, south, east, and west with an error so small it feels less like a mistake and more like a whisper from the past, a secret we have yet to fully hear. How could a civilization without magnetic compasses or satellite GPS achieve such an exact orientation to the Earth's axis? The most compelling theories all point upward to the stars. One method involves the ancient Egyptians tracking the circumpolar stars, those that never set but instead circle the North Star. By observing the rise and set points of a specific star, like one in the Big Dipper, over the course of a night, they could bisect the angle and pinpoint true north with astonishing accuracy. This was likely done with a simple tool called a merkit, a forked sight with a plumb line, essentially a primitive but highly effective transit instrument. But the alignment is more than a technical marvel. It is deeply woven into the spiritual fabric of ancient Egypt. The pyramid was a machine for resurrection, a launchpad for the pharaoh's soul. The north shaft was often aligned with the circumpolar stars, which the Egyptians saw as the eternal, undying realm. The south shaft pointed toward Orion, associated with Osiris, the god of rebirth. This was not random. The east, where the sun was reborn each morning, and the west, where it died each evening, were sacred directions tied to the cycle of life and death. So the pyramid's perfect orientation was a way to anchor the pharaoh's tomb to the very machinery of the universe, ensuring his successful journey to the afterlife. The structure itself was a permanent map of the heavens, a connection between the earthly and the divine that was as precise as it was profound. We are left to wonder if their astronomical knowledge was even greater than we suppose, a complete cosmology where architecture and faith were one and the same. This perfect alignment to the cosmos might be a map pointing to secrets still locked in stone. Deep within the Great Pyramid, beyond the known corridors and chambers, lie spaces we have never seen. Advanced scans using cosmic rays, a technique called muon radiography, have recently detected large, unexplained voids within the ancient structure. One of the most significant is a cavernous space sitting directly above the Grand Gallery, a corridor already renowned for its majestic, soaring height. This is not a small crack or a natural fissure. The scans reveal a defined void nearly 100 feet long, its dimensions too deliberate to be easily dismissed as mere structural gaps. So what is it? The most conservative theory suggests it is a series of relief chambers, empty spaces intentionally left by the builders to redistribute the incredible weight of the masonry above and prevent the Grand Gallery from collapsing. This is a sound architectural idea, but the scale of the void gives many researchers pause. Could it be something more? The human mind leaps to possibilities far more thrilling than simple structural support. Is it a sealed treasure room, still holding the original grave goods of the pharaoh Khufu, untouched for 4,500 years? Or perhaps it is a sealed library, a repository of lost knowledge from a civilization that understood the stars and the earth in ways we can barely comprehend. The most provocative idea is that we have been wrong all along. What if the known sarcophagus in the king's chamber was a decoy, and the true, final resting place of the pharaoh has been hidden in this inaccessible void the entire time? The technology that revealed these spaces cannot tell us what is inside. It only tells us that something is there. The stone blocks are too thick, the passages too narrow for any camera or person to reach them without causing catastrophic damage to the monument itself. They remain a tantalizing promise, a locked door for which we have no key. The potential for a single discovery that could rewrite our entire understanding of ancient Egypt hangs in that unseen space, a silent challenge to our curiosity and our technology. What ultimate secret are the pyramids still holding back from us, waiting in the dark for the right moment to be revealed? Inside the Great Pyramid, the true marvel is not its immense size but the impossible precision locked within its tightest spaces. The ascending passage is a long, narrow tunnel rising at a perfect 26-degree angle, its walls so smooth and uniform they feel machined. This leads to the Grand Gallery, a soaring corridor that takes your breath away. Its ceiling rises in 7 overlapping layers, a corbelled arch of such complexity it seems to defy the very stone it is made from. And then there is the King's Chamber, a room built entirely from massive granite blocks, some weighing over 70 tons. These stones are fitted together so perfectly that their joints are virtually invisible, a seamless puzzle assembled in near-total darkness. How could such intricate interiors be built while the pyramid was growing layer by layer around them? This is not like constructing rooms in a house where you build the walls and then add the roof. The pyramid's internal structure had to be integrated into the construction process from the very beginning. The prevailing theory suggests an incredible feat of foresight. The builders likely constructed the internal chambers and passages first as a kind of central core, and then carefully built the mountain of stone around them. This required plans of unimaginable accuracy. One error in the angle of the ascending passage, one miscalculation in the height of the Grand Gallery, and the entire project would have failed, the passages misaligned and the chambers crushed. The Grand Gallery itself is a masterpiece of engineering that still puzzles us. Why does it have those strange niches along its sides? Some believe they held huge granite beams that were used as a portcullis system, blocking the passage after the pharaoh was entombed. Others think the gallery acted as a giant counterweight chamber, its complex shape designed to help raise the massive ceiling beams of the king's chamber into place. Every feature feels intentional, every angle purposeful. They were working without detailed blueprints as we know them, likely using simple chord measures, citing rods, and a profound, ingrained understanding of geometry. The logistics are staggering to consider. Imagine workers maneuvering these multi-ton granite blocks up narrow, rising passages, setting them into a perfect fit with only oil lamps and copper tools. It speaks to a level of planning and skill that feels almost superhuman, a secret school of architecture whose methods were so effective they were lost to the sands of time the moment the last stone was set in place. Those impossibly tight interior passages lead to one of the most intimate and puzzling features of the Great Pyramid. Within the King's Chamber and the Queen's Chamber are narrow, rectangular shafts, just wide enough for a small animal to crawl through. For a long time, they were simply called ventilation shafts, a practical explanation for a deeply impractical design. But this idea began to crumble as we looked closer. Why would a sealed, sacred tomb require airflow? The truth is far more celestial. These are not ventilation shafts, they are star shafts, each one a laser-straight tunnel pointing directly towards a specific, significant star. The southern shaft from the King's Chamber was aimed precisely at Al-Nitak, the central star in Orion's belt. To the ancient Egyptians, Orion was the celestial representation of Osiris, the god of death, resurrection, and the afterlife. The northern shaft from the same chamber targeted the star Thuban, which was the North Star at the time. Thuban sat in the constellation the Egyptians saw as the eternal, unchangeable realm of the gods. This is not a coincidence, this is a map, so what was their true purpose? The leading theory is as beautiful as it is profound. These shafts were not for the living. They were celestial pathways, metaphysical conduits designed for the soul of the deceased pharaoh. Imagine the ritual. After the king's body was sealed inside the dark granite chamber, his soul or his ba would need a path to the heavens. The southern shaft provided a direct route to Osiris for resurrection. The northern shaft offered a path to the imperishable, eternal stars for immortality. This transforms the pyramid from a simple tomb into a cosmic launch vehicle, its architecture engineered to guide a spiritual journey, but a stubborn mystery remains with the Queen's chamber shafts. They were not even open to the chamber itself. Their exits were blocked by limestone doors, only discovered when a robotic camera drilled a tiny hole through one in 1993. What was the point of a star shaft that was sealed shut? Some suggest these were symbolic, meant only for the use of the pharaoh's spiritual essence, not for physical air. Others propose they were intended for a different star, perhaps Sirius, associated with the goddess Isis. The precision involved is staggering. To build a massive stone mountain and embed within it these perfectly angled, pencil-thin tunnels, all aligned to stars that shift over millennia, required an astronomical foresight that we still struggle to fully comprehend. These shafts are the ultimate expression of a belief system where earth and sky were one, and death was not an end but a journey navigated by the stars. This profound silence within the Great Pyramid stands in stark contrast to everything we know about ancient Egyptian burial practices. Every other royal tomb, from the Valley of the Kings to the Saqqara Step Pyramid Complex, is a riot of color and text. Their walls are covered in intricate hieroglyphs, vivid scenes of gods, and spells from the Book of the Dead, all designed to guide and protect the pharaoh's soul. The Great Pyramid offers none of that. Its chambers are built from stark, unadorned granite and limestone, their surfaces polished but utterly blank. The only ancient graffiti are a few rough quarry marks, hidden on blocks where no one was meant to see them. Simple notes like the gang, the white crown of Khnum Kuf is powerful. This was not a forgotten language. The Egyptians were masters of writing, and they believed words and images held magical power, especially in a tomb. So why is the greatest tomb of all completely mute? One compelling theory is that the pyramid's architecture was its own scripture. The precise angles, the celestial alignments, and the very proportions of the chambers were believed to be a physical spell, a three-dimensional incantation so potent that painting spells on the walls would have been redundant, even disrespectful. The magic was in the math and the masonry. Another possibility is one of timing. The Great Pyramid was built for the pharaoh Khufu very early in Egypt's pyramid-building era. The elaborate funerary texts we associate with later pharaohs may not have been fully codified or considered necessary at this point in history. The pyramid itself was the entire ritual, a machine for resurrection that operated through its form, not through written words. The most haunting idea is that the pyramid was never truly finished. Perhaps the intricate inscriptions were the very last step, a task that was never completed after Khufu's death. Or maybe the blank walls are a deliberate statement, a representation of the primordial mound of creation, a silent, perfect form from which all life emerged. In a culture that so deeply valued the spoken and written word for its magical properties, this intentional silence is louder than any inscription. It forces us to ask if we are looking for meaning in the wrong places, searching for words when the true message was written in stone and sky. That profound silence extends to the very top of the Great Pyramid, where something crucial is missing. Every pyramid was originally crowned by a pyramidion, a special capstone often sheathed in electrum, a dazzling mix of gold and silver. This brilliant peak would have caught the first and last rays of the sun, making the entire structure gleam like a beacon. Yet not a single capstone from the major pyramids at Giza has ever been found. Their complete disappearance is a mystery in itself. What could have happened to these sacred, valuable objects? The most straightforward explanation is theft. Electrum was incredibly precious, and a capstone would have been a prime target for looters once the pyramids were abandoned. They could have been carefully pried loose and melted down for their material worth, their historical significance lost to greed. Another possibility is a simple, physical accident. These stones, though firmly set, were exposed to the elements for millennia. A powerful earthquake or the relentless expansion and contraction of the stone from daily temperature swings could have dislodged them, sending them crashing to the ground where they shattered into unrecognizable fragments, now buried under the desert sands. But there is a more philosophical idea. Some researchers suggest these capstones were never physically placed at all. In this theory, the pyramidion was a symbolic element representing the Benben stone, the primordial mound from which all creation sprang. Its absence at the summit could signify that the pharaoh's journey to the heavens was eternally ongoing, a cycle of rebirth never truly complete. This would mean we have never seen a pyramid as it was truly intended, with its shining apex pointing to the sky. The empty space at the peak is a permanent question mark. Were these stones priceless artifacts destroyed by time, or were they always meant to be a conceptual ideal, a destination for the soul rather than a piece of architecture? Without a single original capstone to study, we are left staring at a flattened summit, forever wondering about the final, glorious piece of the puzzle that vanished without a trace. The silent, unadorned stone of the pyramid's chambers may hold a hidden language, one written not in hieroglyphs but in pure mathematics. The Great Pyramid's dimensions are a mathematical marvel that continues to baffle scholars. The ratio of its perimeter to its height is remarkably close to 2 pi. This means if you take the height of the pyramid and multiply it by 2 pi, you get a number almost exactly equal to the distance around its square base. It is as if the builders designed a square that perfectly enclosed a circle's circumference. This is not a rough approximation. The precision is too great to be easily dismissed as chance. So, did the ancient Egyptians intentionally encode the value of pi into their most massive construction? The problem is, mainstream history does not credit them with such an advanced, abstract understanding of this mathematical constant. They certainly understood simple geometry for land surveying, but this is a different level of sophistication. One compelling theory suggests they discovered pi not through abstract calculation, but through a very practical, hands-on method. Imagine a wheel. If you measure the distance a wheel rolls in one full rotation, its circumference, and then compare that to its diameter, you get pi. It is possible the builders used a similar rolling drum or a measured cord to derive this ratio, and then applied it to their grand design. Another layer of mystery involves the golden ratio, a special number, roughly 1.618, found throughout nature and often associated with beauty and harmony. Some researchers claim the pyramid's proportions are based on this ratio, where the ratio of the slant height to half the base length equals the golden ratio. Yet, this is a much more contentious claim. Many Egyptologists argue that there is no textual evidence the Egyptians knew of the golden ratio as a formal concept. So, are we seeing an intentional design or a series of astonishing coincidences? Perhaps the pyramid's shape was derived from a much simpler, more practical starting point, like using a fixed seat or slope angle. The builders may have simply chosen a slope that was stable and aesthetically pleasing, and the appearance of advanced mathematics is a happy accident of that choice, a pattern we project onto the past. But the sheer elegance of the pi correlation is difficult to ignore. It forces a profound question. Were the pyramid's architects in possession of a lost school of mathematical thought, a practical geometry so refined it could produce these results without the complex notation we use today? Or is modern humanity, in its awe, simply connecting dots that were never meant to be connected, weaving numbers into a mystery that was, for its builders, simply a matter of perfect, stable, and sacred form? The silent mathematical perfection of the pyramids finds a mysterious echo in the monumental guardian crouched nearby. The Great Sphinx presents two of the most contentious questions in all of archaeology, questions that are deeply intertwined. The first mystery is written in the very stone of the Sphinx body. Its massive limestone core is scarred by deep, undulating, vertical channels. To a geologist's eye, this pattern is a textbook example of water erosion, the kind caused by thousands of years of heavy, relentless rainfall running down its sides. This presents an immediate and profound problem. The Giza Plateau has been a profoundly arid desert for at least the last 5,000 years. The standard dating places the Sphinx at around 4,500 years old, contemporary with the pyramids. How could a structure built in a desert show such clear signs of water damage? This paradox led geologist Robert Schoch to propose a radical idea. He argued that the Sphinx must be much, much older. To account for that level of water erosion, he suggests the statue could date back to a time when the climate of Egypt was dramatically different, perhaps over 10,000 years ago, a period of significant rainfall. This is the core of the Sphinx water erosion hypothesis, and it directly challenges the foundations of mainstream Egyptology. If Schoch and his supporters are correct, the implications are staggering, leading directly to the second, even bigger question. Who built it? The traditional narrative credits the pharaoh Khufu with its construction. But if the Sphinx is truly thousands of years older, then it predates dynastic Egypt entirely. This forces us to ask if a sophisticated, organized society, a pre-dynastic civilization now lost to history, could have existed on the Nile long before the first pharaohs. The debate between geologists and archaeologists is fierce. Mainstream scholars counter that the erosion could be explained by other factors, like wind and sand, or the effects of salt crystallization from morning dew. They point to the complex archaeological context, linking the Sphinx directly to Khufu's Valley Temple. Yet, the visual evidence of those deep, vertical grooves remains powerfully persuasive. This is not just an academic dispute over dates. It is a battle over the very timeline of human civilization, a silent stone cat posing a question that could rewrite our entire understanding of the ancient world. A single stone slab stands as a ghost in the official history of Giza. Known as the Inventory Stela, it was discovered in the 19th century near the Great Pyramid and tells a story that directly challenges everything we think we know. This ancient text claims that the pharaoh Khufu, the man credited with building the Great Pyramid, actually found the structure already standing. It describes him ordering the restoration of the nearby Sphinx and building a pyramid for his daughter beside the ancient pre-existing monument. If this stela is a truthful record, then the entire timeline of Giza collapses. Mainstream Egyptology, however, has largely dismissed it as a pious forgery, created by later priests during the 26th dynasty to lend an air of greater antiquity to their temple complex. They point out that the style of writing and the titles used are anachronistic for Khufu's time. Yet, the very existence of such a document is profoundly unsettling. Why would a later civilization feel the need to create a fictional past where the pyramids were already ancient? This document fuels a far more radical question, one that echoes the water erosion on the Sphinx. Did the pyramids predate a great flood? The theory suggests that these structures are not 4,500 years old, but perhaps 10,000 or more, survivors of a catastrophic global deluge recorded in the myths of countless cultures. Proponents point to strange anomalies like salt concentrations found within the Great Pyramid stones that could hint at prolonged exposure to water, or sediment layers around the Giza Plateau that seem out of place. Were these immense, geometrically perfect structures designed as arcs of knowledge? Could their airtight, granite-sealed chambers and immense, flood-resistant forms have been intended to preserve the wisdom of a lost civilization through a world-ending event? The idea that they were tombs suddenly seems almost mundane. This theory sits firmly on the fringe, a direct challenge to established archaeology, but it captures a powerful human impulse. It suggests our history is far deeper and more mysterious than our textbooks allow, and that the pyramids are not the beginning of a story, but the enigmatic epilogue to a forgotten world that vanished beneath the waves. Inside the stark silence of the king's chamber stands an object that deepens the mystery, a single, massive box carved from a solid block of granite. This is the coffer, and its presence raises two perplexing questions. Its dimensions are a logistical puzzle in themselves, too large to have ever fit through the narrow passages leading into the chamber. This means it had to be placed inside while the chamber was being built, and the pyramid was then constructed upwards around it. So what was its true purpose? The obvious answer is that it was meant to be a sarcophagus, the final resting place for the mummy of the pharaoh Khufu. Yet this explanation falls apart under scrutiny. The coffer was discovered utterly empty, with no trace of a mummy, no grave goods, and perhaps most tellingly, no lid. If this was a sarcophagus, where is its cover? Why would the most carefully engineered chamber in the world house a royal coffin that was never used? The precision of the coffer itself only deepens the enigma. Its surfaces are polished to an almost mirror-like finish, and its corners are carved with a sharp, clean accuracy that seems to defy the soft copper tools officially attributed to its builders. The level of workmanship is so high that some researchers speculate it required advanced, perhaps even lost, stone working technology. This has led to alternative theories that move beyond the funerary. Could this polished granite box have served a different, more energetic function? Granite contains quartz crystals which are piezoelectric, meaning they can generate a small electrical charge under pressure. Some suggest the coffer was precisely tuned, a resonant chamber designed to amplify specific frequencies or energies within the pyramid. Perhaps it was never meant to hold a body, but to facilitate a ritual transformation of the pharaoh's spirit using the very vibrations of the stone. Was the king's chamber not a tomb, but a powerful machine for spiritual ascension, with this enigmatic box as its central, humming heart? The coffer sits in silent contradiction, an object of breathtaking craftsmanship that refuses to give up its secret, leaving us to wonder if we have been misinterpreting the pyramid's most sacred space from the very beginning. The dazzling reality of the pyramids has been stripped away by time. We see them today as rough, stepped mountains, but that was never their intended form. They were originally encased in a brilliant shell of polished white limestone from the Tura quarries. These casing stones were cut with such impossible precision that the joints between them were virtually invisible, said to be so tight you could not slide a razor blade into the seam. This created a surface as smooth as glass, a gigantic, geometrically perfect mountain that would have reflected the sun with such intensity it would have been visible for miles, a true beacon of light in the desert. So where did this magnificent skin go? The story is one of recycling on an epic scale. Over centuries, following a major earthquake that loosened many of these outer stones, they were systematically quarried away to build the mosques and palaces of Cairo. The beautiful white limestone that once made the pyramids gleam now forms the walls of the citadel and other historic Islamic buildings. This repurposing makes a certain practical sense, but the process itself is a forgotten feat of engineering. How do you carefully dismantle a seamless stone shell from a structure nearly 500 feet tall? It would have required an immense and organized effort, using ropes, levers, and ramps not to build but to unbuild. The loss of these stones is more than just an architectural change. It has fundamentally altered our perception. We are left with the skeleton of the pyramids, their raw structural core, while their original, breathtaking identity as luminous, otherworldly objects has been erased. They were not meant to be monuments of dusty brown, but of blinding white light, a transformation that forces us to reimagine the entire Giza plateau not as a somber necropolis, but as a place of radiant, almost alien brilliance. This celestial connection extends far beyond simple star shafts. The arrangement of the pyramids themselves may be a giant star chart etched into the desert floor. The work of researcher Robert Bovell crystallized into the Orion correlation theory, a captivating idea that the three great pyramids of Giza are a terrestrial mirror of the three stars in Orion's belt. When you look at the sky, the stars of the belt are not in a straight line, one is slightly offset. This is precisely how the pyramids of Menkaure, Khafre, and Khufu are arranged on the ground. This is not a perfect one-to-one match in our modern sky, but that is the key to the mystery. Bovell and his colleagues calculated that due to the slow wobble of the Earth's axis, a cycle known as the precession of the equinoxes, the alignment was absolutely perfect in the sky around 10,500 BC. This date is staggeringly ancient, long before the accepted timeline for the pyramids. So was this intentional? If so, it suggests the builders were not just observing the stars, they were mapping a specific, sacred moment in deep time, encoding it into the very landscape for reasons we can only guess. This leads to an even grander question, a vision of epic scale. Were all the pyramids along the Nile's west bank, from Giza to Dahshur to Abu Sir, part of a single, unified master plan? Some researchers propose that this entire necropolis is not a collection of individual tombs, but a massive architectural model of the Milky Way galaxy itself, with each pyramid complex representing a specific star or constellation along the celestial river. Imagine the entire plateau as a giant, three-dimensional map of the heavens, a permanent echo of the Duat, the starlit realm of the gods built here on Earth. This is a controversial hypothesis, and many mainstream Egyptologists point to the different construction dates of these sites, arguing they were built by competing pharaohs over centuries, not in one coordinated effort. Yet, the geographical and celestial correlations are haunting. Were the pharaohs of different dynasties simply following a sacred blueprint laid down in a forgotten age, adding their own chapters to a story written in stone and sky long before they were born? The idea transforms the Giza plateau from a royal cemetery into something far more profound, a frozen piece of cosmology, its true purpose waiting for us to fully decipher its stellar language. The flawless symmetry of Giza, however, was not the only blueprint. Scattered across the desert are monuments that tell a very different story, one of ambition clashing with reality. The bent pyramid at Dahshur stands as a permanent record of an engineering crisis. Its lower half rises at a steep 54-degree angle, but then, abruptly, the slope changes to a gentler 43 degrees, giving the structure its distinctive bent profile. This was not a design choice, it was a desperate mid-construction correction. The architects likely saw the structure beginning to show signs of catastrophic stress, with cracking in the inner chambers or unsettling shifts in the core masonry. They realized their initial, ambitious slope was simply too steep and unstable for the soft sand and rubble core, forcing them to complete the pyramid with a safer, if less elegant, angle. This was a lesson written in stone. The nearby pyramid at Meidum offers an even starker warning. What we see today is a colossal, three-tiered tower rising from a mountain of rubble. This is not its original form. It began as a true pyramid, but experts believe a catastrophic structural failure caused its outer casing to slide away in a massive, slow-motion collapse, leaving only the inner step core exposed. The builders may have made a fatal error in the foundation angle or the quality of the mortar, proving that the margin between immortality and ruin was terrifyingly thin. These were not failures of effort but of an evolving science. The architects were pioneers, pushing the boundaries of what was physically possible with untested designs, and sometimes the stone itself pushed back. This trial and error process extended beyond engineering. several pyramid sites were simply abandoned, their stepped cores left as lonely mounds in the desert. What could stop such a monumental state project in its tracks? The death of a pharaoh was a common cause, as his successor might want to build his own legacy at a new, more auspicious site. Political instability or a drained treasury could halt work indefinitely. A shift in religious focus, perhaps toward sun temples or rock-cut tombs in the Valley of the Kings, could render an entire construction obsolete. These unfinished pyramids are ghostly reminders that the ancient Egyptian state was not an invincible machine, but a human institution subject to the same unpredictable currents of fate, faith, and finance that shape our world today. In their incompleteness, they tell us just as much as their perfected cousins, revealing the immense pressures and perils behind the quest for eternity. The stone itself tells a story that copper tools struggle to explain. Deep within forgotten quarries and on the surfaces of granite artifacts like the sarcophagus in the Serapeum, we find evidence that challenges the official narrative. There are drill holes in granite that show a feed rate, the speed at which the drill bit advanced, that is twice what modern diamond-tipped drills can achieve. The core sample extracted from one such hole shows a continuous, smooth spiral groove cut deep into the hard stone, as if the drill bit slid through the granite like a hot knife through butter. How is this possible with simple copper tubes and abrasive sand? The sand would create a rough, scratched surface, not the polished, machined-like finish we actually see. This has led to the radical suggestion that the ancient Egyptians possessed advanced machining technology, perhaps using tools that employed sonic vibrations or a form of power we no longer understand. The precision of the boxes in the Serapeum, with their 90-degree inside corners and perfectly flat surfaces, adds weight to this idea. These are not the products of hammering and grinding. They bear the hallmarks of a culture that could cut stone with a level of control that we would struggle to match even today. This technological enigma finds a powerful echo in the most ancient of Egyptian legends, the Zep Tepi, or the First Time. This was not just a story, it was a foundational belief in a golden age that preceded the dynasties, a primordial epoch when the gods themselves walked the earth and established the sacred order of the universe. The legends say it was during this first time that the sacred knowledge of architecture, astronomy, and science was gifted to humanity. Could the pyramids be a physical remnant from that mythic era? Are we looking at the works of that godlike race, or perhaps a human civilization that reached a technological peak and then collapsed, leaving only these indestructible markers behind? The official timeline insists the pyramids are 4,500 years old, but what if they are far older and the pharaohs of the Fourth Dynasty merely discovered them, restored them, and claimed them as their own? This idea connects the water erosion on the Sphinx, the celestial alignments pointing to a far older sky, and the impossibly advanced tool marks into a single, breathtaking possibility. The ultimate mystery of the pyramids, then, may not be how they were built, but when and by whom. They stand as a permanent question mark at the very beginning of our history, silently asking if we have forgotten a chapter of our own story. And there you have it, 25 questions that prove the pyramids of Egypt are far more than just piles of old rock. They are a permanent question mark in the landscape of human history. From the mind-boggling precision of their construction to the cosmic significance of their alignments, every stone seems to whisper a secret we have yet to fully hear. Perhaps we will never have all the answers, and maybe that is the point. The enduring mystery is what keeps us looking up, wondering, and exploring. What do you think is the biggest pyramid secret? Let me know your wildest theories in the comments below, and do not forget to subscribe for more journeys into the unknown.